So you have categories of his house of thinking that's being built in you, and you are learning to abidingly function in it. That's the leftmost underbox of the fourth row of boxes. You're learning to have an abiding desire to function in it. There is an abiding development of his thinking in you that's occurring. There is therefore our friendly word afereo, an abiding plunder that occurs. You're plundering his thinking. You're getting rich on his thinking. As a result of all of those, there is an abiding victory that is also occurring. And remember, this is going line by line, precept by precept, dot by dot. It's an aggregative process building in you. In this fourth row of boxes, therefore, there is a way to diagnose where you are in each of these functions. And over time, you will be able to see that. Now, as a result of them, and now we're in the straight middle of the fourth row of boxes. As a result, you're going to have an increasingly abiding sense of intimacy. Okay? You are going to become, the whole goal of it is to have total spiritual rapport, total spiritual intimacy with God himself. 24/7. When Christ says in John 17, they are one and we are one, he's talking about one in thinking. He's talking about total rapport. All right? They have the same essence as God. All right? God is one really means God is the same essence. I wish they would have translated that properly, because that's what the Greek means. Greek means same. It doesn't mean one in number. It means same. So we've confused people for years with our stupid definition of Trinity. There are three gods, okay, but they have the same essence, and the one means same essence. And that's really what the Westminster Confession people meant when they did their Westminster Confession, but it came out wrong. Anyway, abiding intimacy, oneness of thinking, is going to develop in you. As a result, there is an abiding compatibility that develops. And again, these are all, as you look at your life, not that you spend all day on it, but you're going to have moments when you can do this. As you look at your life, you're going to notice that there's been an increase. And you look at yourself today compared to, say, 10 years ago. How much more you understand him, how much more sense God makes to you, how much more you value the spiritual life versus 10 years ago. You will learn this stuff, especially in adulthood and maturity. So the subsequent videos on each of the stages will show how much of the abiding function, desire, development, plunder, victory, intimacy, compatibility are occurring in each of those stages, so that you can have a way to sort of chart where you are. And it kind of matters, because if you can see yourself in the spiritual life, you can see that it's working or not working. And if not working, what to do about it. And if working, well, that's a refreshment. Okay? Oh, I really have a spiritual life. This is really working. I'm really learning him. I'm really becoming more intimate with God. What else is there to live for? I'm sorry. Material goods are fine, but they're kind of boring after a while. Knowing God, that never gets boring. Okay, so then we go to the right-hand side of the fourth row of boxes, called as four-sided divine happiness. And in order to make a mnemonic, I label them all with H's. These four dimensions are referenced by Paul and by John as height, width, depth, length. Paul references them in Ephesians 3:15 through 19, and he calls it love, which it is, but happiness comes from the love. Okay? Happiness also produces love. Happy about the truth. Wouldn't be any love if it wasn't love for truth. And there wouldn't be any truth if there wasn't love for truth. And you couldn't have love if it wasn't for truth. So you see, it's a circle. Okay, so there are dimensions to this circle, or you could call it a building, which is what the analogy Paul is using, in width, height, depth, and length in Ephesians 3:15 through 19. And also, John, I love the way John does this. He reverses the order of Paul in 1 John 4:12 through 16 to show the height, width, depth, and length. And I cover that in DDNA 1, HTM. So that this happiness and the love and the truth and the love for truth all become this welded unit inside your own soul. And that's why you won't sin forever. You will be too happy. God doesn't sin because he doesn't want to. He's too happy. He loves the whole of it. Okay, even though the whole of it means he's constantly seeing the rape of Nanking go on. I mean, how can he be happy when he watches that? He constantly sees, I don't know, name the worst thing that you want. The Jews are still going into the ovens to omniscience. My Lord is still on the cross to omniscience. The Lord never gets off the cross to omniscience. He's in time. He's gone. You know, he's up in heaven now. He's been there for 2,000 years. But to omniscience, that moment is never dead. So he's still on the cross to omniscience. How can God be happy with that? Well, as you grow in his four-sided happiness, here in the fourth row of boxes on the right-hand side there, you'll know. So it's a heftiness. It's a heartiness. It's his own happiness being replicated in you. And it's husband intimate at our end. Because Christ is our husband. You know, it's always depicted as a role of marital intimacy. That's what Meno is about. Meno is about the woman staying at home waiting for her husband. That's where it comes from. It comes to mean also the soldier at his post waiting to be relieved. Being loyal, being dedicated, being on the job, wanting to do his best, caring. Just, I don't know how else to put it. He abides in the rules, in the love. That's what Greek verb meno means, and you have words that are translated like endure, which is hupomeno, hupo meaning under, meno meaning to abide, abiding under, and that ends up being translated as endure, like in James. Hupomeno is one of Peter's favorite words. Peter has this thing about hupo prefixes. Anyway, the point is that you're abiding under Christ, and you want to. And you're happy to. So these four dimensions of happiness are also growing in you, and each spiritual stage of growth has a certain amount of that in it. Most of it doesn't even begin to develop until adulthood. But this fourth row of boxes have certain characteristics that you can use to chart, and in the subsequent pages of this chart you will see me do that, chart them out. Okay. In sum then, spiritual maturation is a filling up with word process. Both learning it and living on it, Romans 8:4. Romans 8 is about that. As the spiritual growth occurs, the bottom row blocks of each set of boxes on this page gradually fill up while you are filled with the Spirit, which Spirit filling is recovered via 1 John 1:9.